Hey guys, it's Matt. The purpose of this video is to present the most insane list anybody has ever come up with, but on the back end, insane to anybody that may be new to this, insane to anybody, of course, that would stumble upon this video, but to who I call the old guard, they would basically say, yeah, that makes sense, or they would completely understand what I'm saying in most cases. Even these are, some of these are even insane, a little bit insane to the old guard, but the purpose is you'd have one group of people going, yeah, that's basically how the creeps do business and how this reality structure works. And then it would literally, other people listening to it be like, is there any van in white coats that we can call to take this person away? It's that crazy. And it's so crazy, I have to make the presentation like this. I'm just showing who's behind this craziness. I would have much rather liked to make the presentation behind a microphone where I'm not on camera. But these are so insane, and some people are new. They have to see that the person giving this presentation has at least some semblance of intelligence or sanity. And they're screaming at me now saying, well, Matt, even Hitler gave a good presentation. That doesn't prove anything that you can make a presentation. Okay, but it's just a little bit more believable if you see the crazy psychopath who's behind such a list. So that's why I'm doing it like this. So we have to do it like this, guys. And it's more about, this isn't about like, it's just, I'm reading a lot of this, so certainly don't need to see anything here. Probably don't need to see this video. I think it's just better presented if you can see who's behind it. So let's start off with one of the craziest notions of all time that kind of came to me. And again, guys, do I think these are all correct? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But here's the thing. If even five of these are correct, even then the world is a million times removed from anything that resembles normal, anything presented by Wikipedia, then, I mean, if even five of these are right, then we basically live in something that much more resembles literally the land of Oz than anything that you would consider real. So I'm not saying they're all right, but probably five of them are, which means this is more like Oz than anything else. And most of the old guard would be like, yeah, maybe like half of them are right. So start off with a career. I'm not saying this first one is correct. I'm just saying, it's funny. Let me just present it, and then we'll go from there. And these are just notions that I had over time that I wrote down. And again, who knows how credible they are. Number one, there's potentially some sort of correlation between Amazon, the Jeff Bezos, Amazon, the stock, the success of the company, and the Amazon rainforest. Inverse. As the rainforest gets burned down, Amazon metaphysically is allowed to go up. Do I have any basis of that? Have I correlated charts? No. But again, the funny thing here is even something that sounds so crazy, the power of how the creeps operate, the weird magic that they use to push certain things onto the masses. What's so funny is a lot of the old guard would be like, yeah, that's crazy, but I could see that. That's generally how they work. I could see that. In order for Amazon to become this one dominant source for all products and whatever they'll ship you. Not yet shipped via drone. They promised that like 10 years ago. No drones yet. That'll be real fun in the South when people pull out their shotguns when the drones are coming to drop off the CDs and DVDs. But as they become one world dominant to deliver your junk, then to have that magic push forward, potentially there has to be an inverse relationship to the rainforest. Yep, crazy as all you know what. But the funny thing again is a lot of the old guards like, yeah, I could potentially see that. So anyway, let's just move through the list a little bit faster now that you know how this works. Number two, the strange notion why the Concorde was retired, the plane, the Concorde, that could supersonically get you from New York to London in 3 hours when a regular plane would take six or something like that. It was retired, or they said it was unsafe. There was those crashes, I don't know, probably like 20 years ago at this point, 15 to 20 years ago, maybe even more. Um, but of course, the Wikipedia explanation is not correct. Wikipedia explanation is basically probably not correct for anything anymore. That's important. Now this isn't that important, but the reason why I think it could be retired is it gives away the planes at altitude don't really need much fuel or any fuel because there's nowhere to put the fuel on the Concorde. It's just these, if you even look at the schematics, these thin wings, you can't put it in the wings, and there's a little section in the back. I mean, basically, I don't know. I mean, it maybe the sentient world simulations of these truth people are kind of catching on that, for some reason we advertise these 767 need tens of thousands of gallons of fuel. And I think some fuel is necessary, guys, of course, to get them up into the air or to get them at altitude. Some guy does come out in a little truck and load fuel, but I think what they need at altitude is 95% less than what they say. Part of this whole fuel scam going on, and I don't think you can hide it in the Concorde. You would need. I mean, somebody at some point would go, well, where are you storing the tens of thousands of gallons? There's nowhere to put it if you look at the schematics of the Concorde. Can't put it in the wings. So things like, whoa, maybe in a creep meeting somewhere, little George Soros, you have another idea? We're going to be exposed in terms of how we, this whole fuel thing, this whole oil thing we have going worldwide. We're going to be exposed. We need to get the Concorde out of here. Anybody can see that there's nowhere to put fuel in the thing. Needs a little bit to get up to altitude at Mach. But what are we going to do? Fake a few crashes, and then we'll go British Airways in on it and Air France in on it, and it'll be that simple. That's why just for safety reasons we had to get rid of the Concorde. So this one is pretty. I can hear the old guard saying, Matt, you promised a crazy list. This one's pretty benign. Now, it's obviously probably what happened. Of course, anybody stumbling upon this would be like, what? This guy's proposing they faked accidents to retire the Concorde because it doesn't really use hardly any fuel and they have to hide that? Like, this is insane. It would be insane to anybody. This could be the most fun video of all time when I say if somebody stumbles upon it. Where's number 3? Come on, that's all I got. It's just a mess here, this paper. 3. We'll go very quickly because we covered this recently, but it deserves to be on the list. Looked at how each male actor in Hollywood needs to go through some sort of a humiliation ritual. Most times they're put into a dress. The one I stumbled upon after I made the video, which I showed you in another video, Kiefer Sutherland. What's his name? Keith, whatever. Kiefer Sutherland comes out on Letterman wearing a dress, and Letterman's supposedly, like he didn't know, of course, yeah. He's like one of these insider creeps too. And oh, well, I lost a bet. He says, yeah, I lost a bet. Oh, sure, yeah. It's something they all have to go through, these humiliation rituals. And if you remember from the video back, it was there's two other levels. They have to play somebody that is mentally impaired, or they have to play a homosexual role. And if you play all three, then you're like a 5-star general in the Illuminati actor army, like Tom Hanks or Robin Williams, etc. So the on the list here is Tom Cruise. We couldn't find anything on him until it's the scene in The Last Samurai comes out wearing the traditional garb, which is like a dress, but he makes the point of saying, um, yeah, no wonder you're pissed off. He has a handler, a security guard he calls Bob. No wonder you're pissed off, Bob. They make you wear a dress. Well, this was an announcement basically as to the types of humiliation that it seems that all of these Hollywood actors need to go through. And it's not always a dress, but for most of them it is a dress. But the point of this making the list, it was an announcement actually telling, um, of course, how many people. I didn't catch that for 10 years or so after I saw or 15 years after I saw the Last Samurai. I don't think it's that new. But it's like, this is an announcement. They make you wear, of course you're pissed off. They make you wear a dress. So much more than just that being Tom Cruise's little humiliation ritual, more likely an announcement. But anyway, we pondered that long enough in the last video a week back. All right, what number are we on? Number 4. Gosh, this is a mess and it's all over the place. Okay, now I'm going to be extremely quick on this. We've covered it many times, but it deserves to be on the list. John McEnroe, his famous line saying, "You cannot be serious," to the linesman. Oh, that you called that out? You cannot be serious. It's actually it's an ode to the star Sirius. It's a tribute in some way to their one of their astrological gods and things that I don't understand, like Levet would, for example. But it's a tribute. You cannot saying over and over again, carrying this phrase, even to his celebrity charity matches. He will always go in and do the little skit that he's famous for. You cannot be serious. It's Sirius the star, not you cannot be Serious. And this one, this one is almost, we can never be say 100%, but the old guard when I presented this a few years back was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Number five, similar to the John McEnroe, the Dire Straits song "Money for Nothing." Sure, it seems just about a band. All you got to do is play rock and roll, get all the girls, all the cars, all the bling bling, all the millions of dollars, money for nothing, and chicks for free. Yeah, it's certainly what it seems. And again, I'm wrong about a lot of these. Some it probably is what it is, but it could be an ode to the central bank. It could actually be an ode to the or tribute to the central bank. Money for nothing, man. Absolutely. What do you need? Trillions of dollars. Print it up. Well, print it up on a computer, on a supercomputer. Money for nothing. And those, in terms of some of the strange women or other they're married to, it's probably not money for nothing, chicks for free. Probably a lot of back end issues with their wives, but it's probably an ode, or it could be an ode to the central bank. Um, Although, again, I'm going to be wrong about a lot of these, but the old guard's going, yeah, it's possible. Related to that, and this is almost 100%. It's ignorant for me to say 100%, but Hamilton. This is we do a 5A and a 5B here. Related Hamilton, the play about the founding fathers and Lin-Manuel Miranda. You've heard me say this before, so I'll be quick about it. That's simply that's an ode or a tribute to the central banks as well. Hamilton, the supposed founder that was responsible for the notion of the central banks, where again money, fiat created, whether it was Hamilton or not that came up with it. In this case, they're using the play Hamilton, they're using the figure of Alexander Hamilton as creating a tribute to themselves. And when on top of it, what's very funny is this play is not very good. It has some catchy tunes. I mean, there's some catchy tunes. Not throw and but Lin-Manuel Miranda is horrible. It's not like seeing Sarah Brightman doing Phantom of the Opera. Like, not throwing away my shot. Not throwing away my shot. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, just like my country. He's terrible. Terrible. It's not that good, Hamilton. And then it pisses off the other half of America. It's like, well, why are all the founding fathers black people? Well, we represent, Hamilton represents what America looks like today. What? Well, what if I did a play about Martin Luther King Jr. and he was a fat white guy? Would you like that? It's so it's not meant to. They told everybody how great it is, so everybody has to conform. Deep down, they don't think it's very great, but they're going to have to say and believe how wonderful it is because they would be an outcast if they went back around the water cooler and say, John, I heard you saw Hamilton. Was it great? Like people said, oh, yeah, it was great. That's all they do. That's what people aren't big enough to say, you know what? I heard about all the hype, but it rather sucked. They're not big enough to do that around the water cooler. So that Hamilton is a construct from day one meant to be an ode or a tribute to themselves and the central bank. And they laugh all the way to the literal bank. That's what Hamilton, that's like 100, close to 100%. Well, that's not even a strange one on this list. And if you're new here, I mean, this is how the world works. Get your head wrapped around it. Most people aren't new here. But please, can this one, Googlebot, please, can this one just show up in the suggestion box of people looking to how to rebuild a carburetor? Please let this one break out of our normal little box and pen, but it won't. All right, then this is somewhat well. Was related actually to Concord. What was presented in American Gods when I forget the name of that actor, but he played the real tough guy in Deadwood, the HBO series Deadwood. He plays like the devil character in American Gods, and he says, "Did you ever consider that it's actually the beliefs and the knowing of everybody, the quantum type generator beings that are on board here, the real people believe this is incredibly safe, and that's why there are never any crashes. and that's actually what creates lift. In American Gods, it was presented more like, and that's what makes the plane fly, the fact that everybody believes it can fly. But I'm kind of taking that notion and kind of extending it into a little bit different topic, why there are no crashes. We need to do another video on this by itself. It's not possible if reality is what Wikipedia says it is. Pushing, I don't know, it's something ridiculous, pushing 150 million flights in a row without a major crash. And whenever I talk about this, I've got to move through this. This will be 3 hours, guys. But people will always send, Matt, didn't you hear about the Cessna plane that crashed, or the private corporate jet that crashed flying between LA and Toronto? Like, I don't care about that. I'm talking about, and in North America, and they'll also say about what happened in the Nairobi desert or something. I don't care about crashes. I can't confirm any of that. In Africa, I can't send a paid team out on camel to go see what happened. In North America, at least between here, Florida, and Toronto, there's no big, huge 737, 727, 757. None of them. It's been what, 25 years? So this is just not possible. Sending 300,000 pounds of metal up into the air 30,000 times a day, 40,000 times a day if you include planes that are a little smaller, and the carrier planes or the ones that transport all the Amazon junk like FedEx and UPS. To me, it's you can't. Maybe there would be a crash every, you know, 800,000 flights. Maybe that would make sense. But a crash every 150 million flights? No, there's something with reality itself going on. It's just not possible. Well, Matt, don't you understand the safety protocols? I don't care what safety protocols have been put in. The mechanics, 1 out of 20 mechanics is fighting with his wife or girlfriend doing meth on heroin, was drunk the night before. There's pilot error, there are pilots doing lines of cocaine. There's human issues. I don't buy it unless there are ways, I guess, real ways to explain it away to a degree, but still, it's the Wikipedia answer to explain it is not going to be the answer. People might say, Matt, it's not always a metaphysical reality breakdown. You have to understand these AI systems that basically the pilot doesn't do anything anymore, potentially. The AI systems they will, it's not pushing tin with Billy Bob Thornton and whoever that little guy from Say Anything. It's not them just staring at screens. It's all AI, and there's not going to be any crashes. Even so, look, we could do hours on this one. You send up 300,000 pounds of metal and 200,000, moving parts. What did it say in Armageddon? Built by the lowest bidder. I don't believe that you could go millions and millions of flights without a crash, but there's something going on with the nature of reality itself. Let's move on. Yeah, the old guard again. I know, I don't mean to speak for you, but I believe you would agree that one should be on the list, and that's not even a big deal to us anymore. So that was that. It's number 6. We've talked about this recently, so I need to move a little bit more quickly. Many stars, celebrities that have supposedly died, have not died, and are on their own private Idaho. That's the crazy part where I'd love if somebody stumbled upon this video. There's not just an island, it's probably like a small continent that's here somewhere that's not on any map. I mean, this is almost getting obvious. No, we haven't been there, but it's just like an inner knowing. There's just all these celebrity deaths cannot be explained away. I mean, it's just, many of them, they're not dead. They go off and rewarded somehow on this. Michael Jackson Michael Jackson and Prince are probably performing tonight. We're not going to be there to see the performance, but there's a place that's just not on a map, and this is almost obvious at this point. And imagine how insane that would be to anybody not in our little group of crazies. All right, number 7. Very, very quickly. Um, there was no missing 2.2 trillion or 2.3 trillion, or it just completely made up. It was a way of making an announcement as to the amount they're going to steal from everybody to put into the quote wars, the Middle East wars that are ginned up over fake ism events, and there's no missing anything. It's all just a presentation. And then the number actually went up to missing 7 trillion. I mean, ridiculous. The whole thing fake. an announcement to say other things. And I'll add another one to this. It's related. Trump's big thing. Anybody new here, any actor is a puppet, is an actor. They all answer to the same creeps in the same back room. There's no political parties or anything like that. Trump's saying you're fake news. All this fake news stuff. To me, it was an announcement for the people that can read between the lines that basically almost 100% of news has become fake. So there's always been an element of fake news. I mean, Walter Cronkite presented the Gulf of Tonkin incident in the in '68 or whatever. I mean, there's always been an element of fake, but I think it was kind of like an announcement. Trump saying fake news, fake news, fake news. Presented to the peon down your cul-de-sac that they're just going to lie about Trump because he's actually going to try to take the cabal down and work for the people. He's actually against the corporate interests and he's actually going to drain the swamp. So they're just going to call him fake and then he's going to call them fake. No, it was an announcement saying basically anything that comes on the world news other than a weather event where you can confirm Chicago just got dumped on with 18 inches of snow. Everything's fake. That's what that was, in my opinion. That's all in my opinion. And even if 5 of these are right, we basically live in something that even Oz would find strange. Okay, number 7. No, number 8. Okay, well, we've talked about this. We'll be quick with 8. Things like Melvin P. Are not the same as you and me. That rhymes. Anybody want to make a song? Things like Melvin P. are not the same as you and me. It's not the same spiritually. Maybe they're in a similar avatar body, but who knows what's in there? It's not the same as you and me. We know that, so let's move on. That's just that's benign to people. Like, why is that on a crazy list? That's just a given, Matt. That this list would be crazy. Of course, anybody stumbling upon it would be like, what? You're saying they're not the same? There's no soul? Like that scene from that horrible, horrible Planet of the Apes movie with Marky Mark. Although the general, the chimpanzee general type, he is pretty intimidating, kind of scary. Grabs Marky Mark and this is like some statement too. Pulls open the mouth. Is there a soul in there? He's looking down. Marky Mark's pulling his jaw apart. Is there a soul in there? It's that sort of thing. If you could actually look down Bill, Melvin's throat and see, who knows what would be down there? Maybe like an well, I can't say. Video might not load. Okay, 9, 8, I think, right? 8? Nope, we're on 9. Okay, here it is. The Liberty Mutual commercial is a mockery. It's meant to be a mockery of liberty. For anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, these commercials run all the time in the United States. It's just auto insurance, home, life insurance, your basic insurance packages. And at the end, it shows somebody standing in front of the Statue of Liberty, and they say, my auto insurance, this and that. And then they have a sidebar commercial theme with a guy with an emu, with a bird like an ostrich, Limu emu, and that they have those commercials running. Limu, a bird trying to sell you insurance or something, and that guy's about customizing your car insurance. Like, I don't understand that either. But it's the end. It ends with liberty, 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 liberty. That's the it's cringeworthy. That's the jingle at the end of every commercial. Liberty, 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 liberty. It says it 4 times. It's a mockery of the situation we're in when all liberty has been removed from all whatever you believe liberty is. It's been removed. You know that it's to me. Matt, where'd you get this stuff? Anybody tell you about? I just can look at something and then matrix code starts to flow and I'm like that. I think that's potentially what this is. You know, to a lot of you, that's the dumbest thing you ever heard. And to many of you, you're shaking your head like, yeah, that's generally how they do business. Because why would you end just if you just back it up to, one of my favorite exercises of all time is who created the idea? Look at the 7-Eleven event 2001. Who came up with that idea? it's scary yet fun exercise. I don't know why I find joy in trying to examine it because it's any kind of situation that leads directly into a reality breakdown. I do almost enjoy. Like who created the idea? Like here's what we're gonna do. Somebody raised their hand in 1965. Here's what we're gonna do. Who comes up with that idea? What interdimensional demon comes up with that idea, and how do you present it? Or it's the same with this liberty thing. I mean, if what I'm saying about it being a mockery, that little jingle to the American public, and these Liberty commercials. I don't know how many thousands of times they're shown a day over the whole range of cable systems or whatever. It's just they're all over the place. Then you have the guy saying, trying to read his lines, "Liberty bibbity," that thing. That's probably another sort of mockery. But um, you know, let's just spend a few more minutes here because if what I'm saying is so crazy, um, big, huge advertising agencies are paid a lot of money for these themes, right? They're mostly based in New York City. So, let's just say Liberty Mutual is going to pay this ad agency millions of dollars to come up with something, and they come back with this. They slide it over to the head of marketing and the CFO and the CEO, and it's like, so we're going to do this commercial, these different types of commercials, the Liberty Bibbity and the Limu Emo, and then we're going to close with this is the jingle you could come up with your breadth of resources in advertising. Liberty, 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 liberty. Who would approve that? Who would approve that if it's not a mockery? See, it's so basic, it's so horrible. So it's like, how much are we paying you? How much are we paying you, boy? And this is what you slide across the table to me after our firm, Liberty Mutual, just wrote you a check for $1.5 million for our next ad campaign. See, it just doesn't add up. That somebody's like, oh, I've got a great idea. I can't wait to get into the meeting. Look at this. Liberty, 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 liberty. It just doesn't add up if it's not a mockery. I don't know. What number are we on? I'm not good with numbers. Can't remember. 10. That's why people like look at the gematria channels. I don't want to look at the gematria channels. Yeah, there's a gematria that's laced throughout the entire code of this reality system. It's there. I don't want to keep. I agree, it's there. There's no doubt it's there. I don't need to keep looking at gematria. Gematria is embedded in everything they do. There's no doubt about that. Um, all right. Number 10. Um, Now this is like this is so insane to the regular person, but this is another one where like the old guard is like, Matt, I thought you said this list would be crazy. The sun and the moon are either the same thing or they're basically, let's just to be less crazy, they're brothers from the same mother. They're not brothers from another mother. They're brothers from the same mother. It's basically like one cat might come out black and one cat might come out white. It's brothers from the same mother. They are of the same thing. They work together to accomplish whatever. So, that is the weirdest thing there's just no possible way you put one over top the other. They fit together like two milled quarters coming off the same machine back to back. And then somebody stumbling upon this is like, you don't know that one's larger than the other, but farther away? I mean, they would have no idea what we're even talking about. I mean, just come on, give me a break. One's 400 times larger, but oh, what a coincidence! It's 400 times farther away. So when they perfectly fit together for a 1 in a trillion chance that could happen, but so that's what the eclipse is. You conspiracy jerks, give me a break. Who would believe that nonsense? I mean, I don't know if I'm right either, but it's much more believable what I'm saying. Whoever created this reality system created them. It's created them. It's probably two reflections of the same thing. They work together, like L.C. King says, to help generate the energy of this reality system. It's not a freaking a burning ball that's 400 times larger than a piece of rock. That's absurd. Anyway, Matt, saying something definitively don't make it right. I believe I'm going to say it definitively because at least I don't believe in the Wikipedia. I'm not sure I'm right about these, but number 11. What do you say in Cold Mountain? Inman. WP. Inman. Repeating a thing don't improve it none. I say that to a family member who just repeats over and over to make their point. I say, repeating a thing don't improve it none. I say that. They don't like that. That's like, that kind of hits home. They don't like when I do that. But I should be nicer. 11 says the creeps. What? Oh, this one. Okay, this one's going to take a few minutes. Try to be as quick as possible. Now, per Danny Minley's Great. He came up with this insight a few weeks back, saying they don't want any dollar. They need dollars from an energy extraction standpoint or a loose extraction standpoint. They need dollars that come from the back or off the back of your labor. They need you to go work your ass off, then pay it in terms of a tax or a tax on food or something like that. I think in Pennsylvania there's no tax on clothing, but there's a tax on food. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. They need that dollar because that dollar actually carries energy you can't see. So we went over that, and that shouldn't even be on a crazy list. That's just almost a given. But this is the addition to it, and I apologize who wrote this email to me, and I forget who. I just it's so hard for me to keep track of everything. But it was a really good insight where it said, Matt, like there's another side to that. There's all these athletes. It's unnatural how these athletes Ben Simmons, I always bring him up, this bum who I think still plays on the Sixers. People like that, $150 million or something they make. As some baseball players push $500 million, some, or like Mike Trout, $500 million. I mean, I mean, you can understand you know, I mean, all the old explanations about salary inflations, it just doesn't work to explain how these salaries across the board could have gotten so ridiculous out of hand, unless there's a metaphysical reason for it, a reason that relates back to reality itself. And I don't know if I'll get this out properly. The person that emailed me says it's like a reverse to Danny Mindley's thing about they want this dollar because this dollar came from your labors and it has energy. That's what the runes on the back of the dollar bill for all those ritualistic runes and symbols. Said if we maybe it's somehow like if they just print up, sure they can print up $1 trillion a day or a second to cover obligations for cities and towns that fail. But for them to get it's almost like reverse laundering. They'll float if they float the hundreds and hundreds of millions a week through these athletes, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting this exactly right. You can email me again. It's like, and the people go to the stadiums and they believe in these athletes and they love the athletes. Then it's almost like a little bit of power. The runes on the back of the bill like light up a bit. It's like some power is derived which they it's a better situation for the creeps than just printing $1 trillion and sending it wherever it's needed. It's almost like a dollar is not a dollar to the creeps. So somehow, if you can make people believe that a bum like Ben Simmons should eventually get paid $400 million and he can't even shoot a foul shot, he can't even shoot a foul shot and he's making I'm saying if it inflates to 400 million, now it's only 150 million. He's a pauper. He can only afford 27 Bentleys. There's a reason for that. Like they'll, if I guess if Ben Simmons one day is making $4 or $5 billion, then people might start to wake up and like, what is that? What is how is that possible? But they have it just at the limit where it's not questioned, where maybe the money is flowing through the star athletes, where they're assigning it's the whole process assigns energy to the money, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I hope I said that right, whoever emailed me. And if you want any credit for that idea, email me and I'll certainly mention your name. I'm not here to steal anybody's ideas. 12. It says art and media. Oh, well, we know this. We'll just, all art and media collectively delivers the truth of reality or the truth of existence or the truth of what you should be doing here as a real boy, not a reversed Pinocchio human being. But the key to why it made the list is it flows through the art without, in most cases, the artist even being aware of it. And this is my opinion. This is why, a lot of the truth community believes a lot of the truth community will say that, yeah, Back to the Future implanted this and all these movies predicted this and predictive programming and shows you how reality works. And they always think in every case the producer or director, they're in on it. They all have their secret backroom meetings. And, I'm sure a lot of that exists. But I'm just saying, as I observe it over time, they're not somehow it flows out or the retrocausality language has to flow out. They're not as in on it as you would think. I really believe that. And every time I look at it, the evidence always points that way. Not that because you just have too many things planned. Thousands and thousands of truth you can find in different forms of media, of art, movies, TV shows, including predictive programming, and everyone gets, they're all in on it. I just don't buy it. It somehow it just it at least the positive message that we can take away can, like what Vanessa VA calls the retrocausality language, can embed itself in there somehow, and it comes out where we can see the message, a positive message, where maybe they didn't intend that at all. All right, 13. Um, Here we are. Okay, this is a weird one, even to some of you guys. What's with all the space stuff all the time? And I'll just give you the what the crazy notion is here, and then we can talk about it on the back end. That it is like a closed system. But they want maybe they're I don't we're not stuck here. We know that. Whatever we are real. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. We've talked about this sort of thing in other videos. Whatever we are spiritually is not what a lot of these creeps are, or any of the creeps. But they're like stuck here, it seems. Okay, I'm not getting this out properly. It's like they're stuck here, and it's like if they can get people, real people, to believe that there's this whole place to travel to out there, and it's almost like then it will generate that reality and kind of manifest it where maybe they think one day they can use it to escape, if that makes any sense. If they are trapped here, we are not trapped here, souls and spirits, unless we're complete jack offs, and it's so simple. Unless we do the wrong thing over and over again, go into our deaths with a complete wrong mindset, we're not trapped here. But some of these creeps may be. And it's like, well, if we get all these reality quantum generators to believe that there's just this, you could travel out to all these distant places, and then we'll start small. We'll Star Trek and quantum drives and event horizon, gravity drives and warp drive and light speed. Then we'll get these reality generators to actually break a hole so we can get the hell out of here. It's like they're using us. Now, I know this is very strange, guys, but if you just, and then I didn't, just going through a list here. It's not, some of these are communicated better than others. I didn't do a good job with that one, but I think you know what I mean. But just think about the amount of TV shows and movies by themselves. And I'm not talking about the notion of what SpaceX is or what the hot water heater operation of Blue Origin is. I'm not talking about all that stuff of what NASA's up to and all getting people to believe in all of that, of which 99% of that is just complete nonsense, hocus pocus. Let's just look at the movie aspect or the TV aspect. Is it that great? Is it that exciting? Now it is to a degree if space is what they say it is, which we don't believe, we don't buy, most of us don't. But is it okay? So it is kind of exciting. But is it that great where there'd be what, thousands, thousands of TV shows and movies collectively? The presentation, go to Netflix. It's like this presentation of space, that presentation of space, this space series, Lost in Space, 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 space. It's in every. Is it that great? I mean, I could see you have some Star Trek and some Star Wars, and it's overrepresented. And when it becomes overrepresented, I and others will stop and say, well, wait a second. You know, a group of us here, we don't create the entire reality, likely, but the game board is here, but then we shape it collectively through how the creeps, they try to trick us. They can't do it directly themselves. We shape the reality at the minimum from a quantum quote perspective, and it's like, well, it's so over the top as to how many space programs there are and shows that it's like you stop and go, what are they trying to get from us here? You know, and it's like a long-term plan, and it does. I don't think there's any difference if I'm right about this. And again, I don't believe all of these either. I believe some of them might be right. Matt, stop apologizing. Just present the list. Sorry. So I don't think there's any difference between the Blue Origin presentation and a new Star Trek series. I think the main purpose of it potentially is to get people to believe in space and then somehow manifest something for them. So there's no difference between a TV show. Oh boy, who's calling? Come on. No difference between a TV show and And actually a billionaire going up in a hot water heater? No, in terms of what they're potentially trying to get us to believe in. So this is, we could do a whole video on this. This is a weird one, but just wanted to keep it on the list. 14. Um, this again could be hours and hours. It's my belief. There is no shape of the Earth. It's that simple. Um, what there is no physical nature to what we live in, or it can morph. It can be all things to all people. Just to spend 1 minute, it's not possible. If you believe it's this, then the reality will show you all the evidence you need to confirm your belief, whatever shape you believe in, or whatever. There's also toroidal and there's hollow. If you believe it's this, then it will give you just lists and lists of evidence and proofs and experiments. But then this guy over here believes it's something completely different. Oh, but then all the experiments line up for that person. No real world could do that. Could give each side what it needs to dig in. So it's not possible. And I love the I will get the FE, we call it with code so we don't get a banner ad. Splat turf. Splat. I'm not trying to make fun of it. A lot of their proofs are real, no doubt about it. I just don't get in any camp. The laser tests across the lakes, they're real. There's no 8 inches per mile squared. It doesn't exist. I agree. I don't get in any camp because it can show all sides what it wants, and there's no real world that could do that. So, but I'll get a lecture from the Splat Turf people, and saying, Matt, there's no proof whatsoever about for the globe. What? That is literally the dumbest comment I've ever gotten in my life. No, the thousands and tens of thousands of astronomers in these universities with their mathematical models, they can predict out the motion of planetary bodies out 10,000 years to the second. How Venus works as the morning star and the evening star exactly fits in and proves a heliocentric globe model. I mean, come on. There's evidence on all sides. Kingdom of heaven. Who has claim? All have claim. None have claim. There's somebody email me. There's no evidence of the globe. No, no. What all tens of thousands of university professors? They just have nothing to go on. Oh, come on, give me a break. It's equal, if anything. And mathematically, the globe side has it's 1 million to 0 mathematically on the globe. So I'm not here arguing for the globe. I remember what I just said. There is no shape to it. It morphs itself somehow. It's unnatural. It proves some sort of matrix. But you know, okay. Well, let's just move on. All right. What are we on? 15. All right. We'll skip 15. That's the whole video. 16. The real reason, again, this is something like, this is not that crazy, Matt. This is just a given to the old guard. The real reason for drug commercial side effects. The real reason for drug commercial, even a first grade truther would say, to avoid lawsuit. And Matt, don't the cabal they're all lawyers and they just want to put money in their own. It's always about just things we can understand. It's just about money. Okay, guys, it's probably a video in and of itself why these drug commercials never drop the list of very, very harmful, terrible, and sometimes disgusting side effects just when you're sitting down to eat in front of the TV, like serious diarrhea and vomiting has happened. And what? Oh, God. But usually some cancers have happened, like lymphoma. Like, what? I'm going to take this for irritable bowel syndrome and it could lead to some kind of cancer, and people are like, oh, you line me up for it. So I'm not really prepared to talk about the reasons here, guys. Let me present the reasons and then something that's important on the back end. If you don't buy, this should be on the list. And I'm sure there's some things I'm missing, but they always want real people to manifest diseases on themselves. So a lot of what they present, remember, is not just about how you consciously think about something, it's how your subconscious mind takes it, or unconscious, or the parts of you that's much more powerful than your thinking cortex. And so it's like the message is, oh, there's a drug now for this, which I have. I'm so excited, and it's like, some cancers have happened. This will happen. That will happen. This side effect. That side effect. And it's like the message is like, well, I'm just replacing one disease for another. It just they constantly want real people to manifest disease on themselves. Then there's a whole other potential reasons for that. Why the human lifespan easily, in my opinion, could be not that we want to stay around here forever, but disease free, joint pain free. It easily could be 100 to 120. I think they really try to keep the human beings believing that it's 70 to 82 and that's the range, and maybe if you're here any longer you'd wake up to certain things. They definitely have, in my opinion, artificially kept the the tables lower than what human beings could achieve. Not that we want to stay here forever, but you know what I mean. So it's part of like it's kind of like always getting into the subconscious, the people manifesting disease on themselves, like trading one tyrant 3,000 miles away, as said in The Patriot, for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away, dropping the 33 at the same time. And in that same movie, he says 9 pounds 11 ounces for his little chair that he's whittled away, his rocking chair. 9 pounds 11 ounces, perfect. That's perfect. What? Somebody's stumbling upon this video. Well, what are you saying? That's some sort of nine. Well, some kind of predictive programming? Of course it is. That's not. I don't even. That's a given at this point. He's hanging the chair on a scale. Of course it is. Anyway, um, so yes, they're manifesting disease, and there's also this notion of they want the subconscious to believe there's never going to be a cure. And the more important part of this I'm going to talk about in a second. They want the subconscious to, the message that gets into the unconscious, that there's never going to be a cure. So even if we're excited about this drug will cure this, then they'll give you 30 seconds. It could lead to this. It could lead to that. It could lead to heart failure. It could lead to. It's like, well, we're never going to be well. That's kind of the message. And anyway, guys, I'm just speculating, but I think the old guard's like, yeah, that's generally why these side effects exist. I'm sure there's some key things I'm missing. So it proves they want the list of nasty side effects in the commercial and they get something out of it. What proves that is the common sense of, if the world were real list, these side effects would have been removed 25 or 30 years ago. Because even if the first grade truther's crying out that, Matt, Congress is always going to favor other lawyers, they're always going to favor their brethren. All of the Senate and Congress are lawyers. But again, if the world were real, what do you think the drug companies, if the world were real and it wasn't just all one system to destroy a human being's notion of its own self, if the drug companies, if the world were real, have any influence, Pfizer, GlaxoSmithKline, they have any influence on politicians? They couldn't have started a campaign with the people um, 30 years ago saying, do you people want to hear disgusting side effects every time you see a drug commercial? Wouldn't it be great? Can you ask your congressman to say at the end of a drug commercial, all drugs have side effects, and, just go to our website and we'll give you the list. Pretty simple. Or if you don't have access to the web, we'll mail you the side effects. We're asking for a hold. The drug companies would say we're asking for a hold harm list from Congress. And of course, Congress wants to favor their, the first grade truther. It's all about money. It's just about Congress just wants to. They're always going to protect their lawyer brethren. Well, the drug. If anything were real, for over 30 years, the drug companies would have appealed to the people. We're backing Pfizer and Glaxo. We're backing this candidate because the first thing this candidate promises to do is put a bill that holds the drug companies harmless, because you don't want to hear that disgusting list of side effects every time you sit down for dinner. If anything were real, and do senators and congressmen, do they want to be reelected? If it were real and they actually votes mattered, and if campaigns work the way they say they work, which they don't, but if the world is what Wikipedia says, a senator would have said, boy, what can put us over the top in the next election? Tell the people you'll put a bill where all those disgusting side effects will be no longer part of the commercial. What Congress can almost never offer anything that actually pays dividends in people's lives. People would be like, "Yeah, I'm tired of hearing that gross list." They would have absolutely loved candidates promoting that. Nobody ever has. So, again, it would be if first grade truther believes that, Matt, don't you know the side effects are listed to avoid a lawsuit? Oh, bull crap. That is absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. That's the reason they want you to believe that they're there. But the point then was Congress would then hold harmless in a bill. They'd say you can't sue Pfizer if you don't put in the side effects, because at the end of the drug commercial it would say, if you want the list of side effects, call this 800 number, we'll mail them to you. Anyway, I don't mean to go too long, but I always found that to be an interesting issue. 15, the Abbey Road cover. I don't know, guys, if this is like some Matt reading the Matrix code, or some of you might say, well, Matt, you're so late to this party. I'm just going to list it. I don't know if this is, but I never heard anybody say this. So this is kind of mine. But again, I doubt I'm the first to say this. People probably said this 10 years ago, but it deserves to be on the list. The Abbey Road cover, the four of them walking like Johnny Walker Blue across the way. The white stripes, that is, they are the WTC in the negative space and in the positive space. I think pretty much the exact proportions. So I'm sure what Mike says about Paul is in bare feet, and the Mike stuff that Mike does all the Paul is dead stuff, and whenever it's so funny when you look into the official explanations, whenever it might be something kind of important or reveal how this reality works, you always get some bullcrap explanation that we can see through so quickly. So in this case, the fact that the explanation is such bullcrap, then it lends tons of credibility into the things that, say, Mike at Sage of Quay looks into. If the explanation was real, then it wouldn't help Mike. But the explanation is such bullcrap, like the way Tool will come and say why they use the seven-pointed star, and the guitarist is like, "Well, we think it's cool, and it's what some cops use." Oh, come on! When you present the bullshit explanation, then it confirms everything we're thinking. Seven-pointed star, this gigantic occult lineage goes back to elven magic, and he's like, "Oh, we just thought it was cool." Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, and the cops use it. Oh yeah, that's why Tool picked it. So the same with the Abbey Road thing. The guys, well, he was wearing sandals, but it was hot. What? If you're wearing, how does taking off sandals help you be cool? What? It just doesn't make any sense, but it's meant to not make any sense. The reality has to do it this way. If it's something important, they can never put out a reasonable or logical explanation. It always has to be nonsense. The way they explain what Columbia is just nonsense related to what is whatever the goddess of freedom is on the top of the Capitol building. What is what is it? The divine the manifest destiny aspect of Columbia, and all the explanations of why it says "In God We Trust" on the back of the dollar bill, what the eye of providence is. All the explanations are absurd. And then it actually then immediately proves that whatever we're sniffing out about reality is actually either completely true or we're very, very close. Again, for some reason, the way, all the clues we get in this reality system, it just can't, it always has to give itself away in this regard. So if the Abbey Road cover really is a Paul is dead statement, and George behind Paul is the grave digger dressed much more casually than the others. If that's what it is, and they wanted to cover that up, see, then then the explanation as to why Paul has no shoes on, they would come up with something believable, where to them it's some sort of a symbolic presentation or some ritual, the Paul is dead thing. They would come up and say, well, Paul had just bought new wingtips or something, and it was the blister he had gotten, and he just said, enough of these. I'm just going to do it in bare feet. That would make more sense than he was wearing sandals, but it was hot, so he wanted to. It doesn't make you any cooler to take sandals off where your foot is 90% exposed anyway, and then walk on hot, really, really hot pavement with bare feet. What? So anyway, guys, the explanation Just like the mistakes on purpose, the inflated tire, the explanations for these things are made bad on purpose, or for their scheme or their ruse, their ruse to carry the most power. They have to have these ridiculous explanations that at this point we see right through. I don't appreciate your ruse, ma'am. My what? Your ruse. Your cunning attempt to trick me? I'm not renting here anymore. Good. He says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do the clerk scene. We've seen that. It's funny. All right. 14, 15, 16, 16. Where are we? Is that on the other side? No. No, we did that one. 17. Is that on this side? Sorry, guys. Should be a little better prepared next time. I guess we just flip over. That's it. There's more over in the back, though, of course. Um, all right. Just try to wrap it up. It's going too long. Um, I wrote, "Be careful what you wish for." Truth is, this deserves to be on the list, although we've talked about it many times. Truth of this world is carried through time artificially because it has to be. And we've been through this so many times. I'll be quick. Why there's truth and metaphysical truth that comes out of stupid songs, row, row, row your boat, nursery rhymes, Humpty Dumpty, but there, some negative things come through, some positive things come through. I was just emailing back and forth with someone, say like, what positive things, come through time or artificially carried through time. But what I wrote down here was, be careful what you wish for. That's one that always deserves to be on this sort of a list, because that is just telling you the quantum generative powers that real people have. I mean, it's be careful what you wish for, because it's not just you're going to basically bring it upon yourself. And this can be used, of course, positively or negatively. Be careful what you wish for. The reality system has people like my dad believing that he said to me a couple weeks back or a month back, like I said, he said, I just think we go to nothing. I just think it's nothingness. Be careful what you wish for. That's metaphysical truth. You could have just manifested that on yourself. You completely believe in the atheist position. There's a lot of smart people believe that's what you will carry into death. So anyway, guys, this is old hat to us, but probably is completely crazy. The fact that metaphysical truths are carried through nursery rhymes, art, sayings. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. All because these things all carry a metaphysical truth of how reality works. And then, of course, people stumbling upon this video wouldn't believe in the quantum nature of how we create things in terms of our beliefs anyway. So let's move on. I wrote, retrocausality is real. I think we have too many examples at this point. I'm not going to talk at length about the Mandela effect because people are still, even 10% are still triggered. I'm highly Mandela affected. If your Mandela point, though, is not to start a conversation about the Mandela effect, but if you are affected, then you have to believe retrocausality is real. The Mandela effect is the exact definition of retrocausality. There appears to be a change, but there never has been a change. It's reflected back through time. But even if you're not Mandela affected, you can still believe, like I do, that retrocausality is real. There's many different ways to believe that. One way is through all the predictive programming. So what do we find a few weeks ago? A comic book, or I'm sorry, to the credit of person who sent that to me, but comic book about Captain Uncle Sam or whatever, with crumbling twin skyscrapers crumbling on an Uncle Sam comic book from 1940. And, you know, any one by itself, I hear you from your bathtub. That it's Uncle Sam. That's the government. They knew back then what they would do. Okay, I hear you. That's the first great explanation of predictive programming. But when you have thousands of these, so they had whole armies of people planning this stuff everywhere in video games and comic books and art, and people have sent me stuff where this woman's giving an interview and the crops in the back is shaped as a 9 and the crop cuttings of a tractor, and all this stuff leaks through reality itself. It's too much. The breadth of it is too much for the information bureau, the Hillary Clinton creeps to be running around planning it with phone calls. It's just too much. So there almost has to be this element of retrocausality. And you know what event really got me looking at it incredibly seriously was the Peter Stuyvesant Peter Stuyvesant commercial, where there were 6 or 7 um, references to the 7-Eleven job application, including 5 shots of, I believe, the towers themselves, where, it just, in the first grade truth examples, that was just all planted in that cigarette commercial nobody saw from the 70s. Like, okay. But if that was all, if that's all there was, I would agree with you. But we just have like 1,000 examples at this point. And once you get a certain set of so many examples, then you'd have to look other places for the explanations instead of the first grade truth or parroting. It's all about money. Series about a pipeline. It's all coordinated by the creeps. It's all, if you know. Anyway, so what else we got here? Done with this guy. Retrocausality. All right. Wow, this is a whole video in of itself. I'll need to do that some other time. Quick one. Everything here is backwards. At least anything of any importance. The way the reality presents itself is backwards. Just don't ever forget that. Everything is backwards. So if the system comes and says this is so important, it's not important. If anything, the system says you need to do this for yourself, it's not. You know. Um, and what I wrote down here was again about Melvin, our friend Melvin P. He's rich, right? Yeah, he's probably rich. Yeah, Melvin P. It's probably not faked. But then he's poor. See, it's backwards. So where it matters, where it counts, he's poor spiritually. He's a homeless man spiritually. It always is going to be the opposite, you know. So Jeff Bezos and these guys and George, oh, the power they have, then yeah, it seems like they have a lot of power here, and he can set a hot water up heater into the air whenever he wants. He has his own space program. Then that means that where it matters, when you back up, where it really matters, he ain't powerful at all. It's just some fish flopping around in a orange Home Depot bucket, a big fish in a small stinky pond. Like, oh, there's an aspect of me in there with that fish, but most of me's not even in there, and he can't get out. He's flopping around in there in that stinky. But he's a big fish in a small pond. So any big fish in a small pond here, it's the opposite. They're not powerful if you back up far enough to what's important. This is just a given, guys. This is just a. I'm not saying something with this, just because you act like you're confident doesn't mean it doesn't make it right. Repeating a thing don't improve it. Now, this is the old. I'm telling you, I can talk for the old guard here. The old guard's like, yeah, that's exactly how this place works. If you're new here, all right. I'm going to close with this section, which hopefully will be, if I can get this done, there's a lot here, hopefully will be the free voice video for tomorrow. I haven't talked to Rob or emailed him for a while. I assume he's not on, he's with the family. He's around to load tomorrow. But, well, let me just, it has to do with JFK. What I'm going to do on free voice is not what I'm going to present here. This is just, again, the Bizarro, continuing and finishing the Bizarro Strange list. I am going to try for free voice to present the definitive video, and I think I need to do it in a very professional fashion. It won't be me on camera unless I come forth to introduce myself before the video starts, just to introduce that there's not a crazy man behind this video. It will be that the whole presentation, I'm going to try to do this in a roundabout way, so we have no issues here. Again, this will be on free voice, hopefully tomorrow night. The whole thing is not real. It's that simple. It's just what a newbie like, well, don't you have to pick one? Don't you have to pick one? It's Castro, or it's the Fed, or it's the Russians, or it's the military-industrial complex, or you could pick Oswald. Even first graders see through that. That's the most absurd one that most people still believe in. Or it's the mob because of what RFK. Don't you have to pick one? No, that gives it away. Then it's none of it. It's nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing. Well, a ritualistic presentation. Now, I'm going to try to do that, guys. It is so obvious at this point to me that I'm going to try to do a professional presentation. I'm not going to. I was going to say I'm not going to present conspiracy like that. This by itself would be the weirdest notion of all time. to people, but I'm not going to present anything woo like we're quantum reality generators, creators, none of that. I'm going to make, and I don't see how, once this video is done and if you were to give it to somebody, which we know doesn't work, but we'll keep spinning our wheels, I don't see how anybody could come out the other side and be like, not see what is trying to be communicated here. And I'm still talking about what I'm going to try to do on Free Voice. I haven't presented what the strange list regarding JFK is. But even the Jackie thing by itself, we have Connolly saying she took her husband into her lap or something, whatever he says, Connolly. She would be, you ever see Carrie? Or the scene in Pulp Fiction turns around, boom, boom, the everywhere, the brains. Why am I on brain duty? You're the MRFer that did it. You should be cleaning up brains. You ever see Carrie standing there like just that's what um, Jay Onassis would look like if anything were real. That by itself, literally, that by itself proves nothing happened by itself. Although there's many other pieces of evidence. So gonna try to do that. But here's the crazy list. You want to talk about JFK for the crazy list. And again, guys, remember, well, I'll say it one more time, half of these are wrong. But, you know, so this is just trying to think around three corners, see around three corners at once. JFK could be, it's light, it's guiding light. It's as the world turns. This is all by design. It broke into guiding light. No, it broke into as the world turns. We interrupt as the world turns for a CBS News bulletin. What's the problem with that? A CBS News bulletin, in Kennedy. It was a CBS News bulletin. Are you saying that's by design? The word bulletin has been associated with news for hundreds of years. Yes, it's by design. Let's just not get too crazy here. This is a weird enough list. But it's potentially a fake. What went down in Debbie Does Dallas Plaza, of which Brandy sent me she was down there. She sent me pictures of the X, sent me pictures. Thank you, Brandy. I'm going to try to use in the presentation. It's a potentially, why it's on the crazy list, it's a representation of life on Earth. They're showing you, this is guys, this is the craziest one. Who knows how correct this is? I mean, just the first part is crazy to a lot of people. Even here, saying it's nothing happened. It's showing you what life on Earth is. It's a presentation. It's like, if you could back up far enough, what they showed us here is a representation of how all life on this in this reality system on Earth works. So just some things I started writing down. This just came to me as I was sleeping, if that makes any sense. So basically the reality system works like this. There's the reality, the news, the media, what is space, what is this? The system makes a fake presentation to the masses that the masses are meant to believe in, and then to solidify or harden the cement on or breathe life into it so it kind of sticks forever inside the reality. And of course they did that with the Debbie Does Dallas Plaza, whole presentation. Of course, that's history that's now stuck. Many of us, like what is being done now, will poke holes in it, but it's here, it's stuck in this reality. But it's a little microcosm of how the whole reality works. Let me show you 400 million space shows and movies and TV shows, and then the reality generators will be like, that's exactly what it is, and I have a complete belief in it, so somehow it starts to manifest. It's just likely how things work here. So again, the Debbie Does Dallas is like a microcosm of how the whole reality system works, is the crazy notion I'm trying to present here. And either way, it's an exercise in thinking big. I'm not going to assign 100% probability to all these. Stop apologizing. I'm sorry. I have said that too much. I'm just making sure everybody understands. Okay, the next one says, it's probably this no different than Brutus and Julius Caesar, the killing of the king to usher in a new era. And what do they say about the ritual of the Debbie Does Dallas part? They say, oh, that was when, this is the first grade truthers are taught to parrot. There was a they were taught to parrot this also from the Kevin Costner movie Oliver Stone JFK. It was a coup d'etat against America. There was a total change, and the first grade truthers will say that's when the deep state took over everything. That's when elected politicians don't matter anymore. That was the change. No, that's what it's making a presentation, of course, that um, like Brutus and Julius Caesar, a killing of the king, to usher the ushering in of a new era, the taking over or deeper entrenchment of things like the deep state, or moving to the next phase of real human spiritual enslavement. It was an announcement of some kind, I believe. I don't think it was actually the coup d'etat and we had liberty before that. I mean, I don't buy any of that. It's either a 400-year plan or a 1,000-year plan, but it's still the ritual has to be put forth, and it's like the announcement of ushering in a new era. And back to Brutus and Caesar, why would I believe in that? I mean, I don't believe in this what I'm talking about, but I don't believe one bit of some Brutus, and it's no different than any other two asses in a nation situation. Why did they have to add the second ass to the word? Why isn't it just called an assassination? Why'd you have to add the second ass? Two asses, and it's no different than Presidio Plitzif or whatever, the guy eating the sandwich who winged Archduke Ferdinand. It's absurd, those stories. Why would I believe Brutus and Julius Caesar just because I'm told? I believe Brutus. Is that the guy from Popeye? I believe he was more responsible for Julius Caesar. If there was even anybody named Julius Caesar, I don't buy any of it. I don't buy none of it anymore. So, but that was what was that? An announcement to a new era coming. This is no different with the two asses in a nation regarding Debbie Does Dallas Plaza and Kennedy. I don't know. I'm saying it like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. Okay. Zabruder played Harley Guy, or the other way around. Harley Guy, in that was a ritual announcing the next what would be ushered into the new era that between the Saturn and the Jupiter conjunction. Harley Guy played Zabruder, or if you will, Zabruder played Harley Guy. There's always a figure like that, right? Um, so if you forget or you don't know about we know what Harley Guy did. He just, and it was meant to be bad on purpose. But Zabruder, Matt, that film didn't come out for Geraldo Rivera released that like 11 years later, something like that. No, Zapruder that afternoon, like an hour later, was on local. Did you ever see the presentation? You can still look it up on YouTube. He was on local news. Some It's so ridiculous. Smoking a cigarette. The guy's on the phone. He's got Zapruder here. He's acting like it's all. We have, and he says the name wrong. We have Abraham Zaputa. He says here, and you witnessed it, sir. And yeah, and you were actually filming, and you witnessed this. And then Zapruder said, first I saw the plane hit one. Sorry, that's the other guy. That's Harley Guy. Zapruder is he's not believable at all. He cracks a few. Somebody gives a few Mona Lisa smiles. And he says, "Oh, but did you initially have your, we love to do this, me and a few commenters. Did you initially have your camera here? No, or my secretary, she convinced me to go back and take some pictures." So yeah, when he went back and got his camera, that's part of the ritual somehow. And then so he's not believable. This is not, and if anybody's struggling with this, why isn't he believable, even if you see it? Because if you were out there to see the president of the United States, Kennedy, you believe in every aspect of it, every patriotic aspect of, he would be traumatized. Basically, and he filmed it. He would be able to maybe not be able to play it back. It's on a film reel, but he was right there and he witnessed, to me, something that didn't happen. But if it happened, he would be traumatized in that interview. Why? But Matt, the Twin Towers really. Why wasn't a Harley Guy trauma? I don't know what these creatures are. Anybody real, put it this way, anybody real would be traumatized. Harley Guy, I agree, was not traumatized. If you're kind of like a few blocks away in the damn World Trade Center, and if anybody that hasn't been there, guys, they were. I can't tell you how massive these buildings were. It's if you haven't been there, the size that is just beyond anything you can imagine. It would have been. I mean, those things coming down and if you were around the area, it would be the true definition of awesome. Not It's a sign. Awesome is a sign good. Awesome is neither good nor bad. It says awesome. I mean, Harley guy should be traumatized, which means he wasn't. They brought him in from Hoboken to read the lines. He wasn't. He would have been traumatized probably, no matter what that thing is, spiritually, if he witnessed what he said he witnessed. Just like Zabruder. I went back to gotta go back and get some pictures. He didn't. He would have been shook up a little bit, like no. Uh, PTSD, nothing. And that's almost also by design because none of them ever have any trauma. It's like how they get away, how they're told to contractually get away with it. Talk about the most scariest, most you know um, bizarre, crazy, scary things, and then interview somebody that saw it, and then show no trauma at all, no crying, and no PTSD. That's how we'll keep our karma load down. That the thing never happened, or at least didn't happen the way Wikipedia says. So anyway, guys, I need to wrap this up. Zabruder, if you will, is Harley guy, or the other way around. Confusion, then it's the same script follows over and over with any of these major events, massive events. Confusion is created on all sides. So with JFK, it was the immediate with Jackie introduced it. Um, I want them. She introduced it. The confusion that was brought in was who done it. The police lineup. It was the Russians because Lee Harvey was with them, visited them. No, it was Cuba because of the Bay of Pigs. No, it was the mob because of what RFK did to the mob. No, it was the military industrial complex because Kennedy was going to, of course, get us out of Vietnam. He was just fighting for us. And no, it was the Fed, it was the bankers because he was going to end the Fed. Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, how convenient to have all these different culprits. How convenient. So Jackie starts that debate by saying, I kept the bloody rags on because I wanted the people to see what they did to my husband. Well, who's they? That starts it. That puts it in the minds, and then the confusion, the cognitive dissonance is created on purpose. And Jackie says, "I wanted to see what they did." Well, who's they? But then it's this one guy that did it. Little Lee Harvey Oswald. He's working in the mailroom with little George Soros. Lee Harvey. So that creates confusion. Then who did it? The police lineup. And then as the decades go by, none of the groups are ever eliminated. If you want to believe it was the mob, again, guys, you know my position on this. It was literally the guiding light, or as the world, nothing happened. So there was no culprit. It was all by design. It's all bullcrap. So if you want to write books, the fact that the mob did it because of RFK going after the mob, I assure you, the reality itself will just lay down all the breadcrumbs you could ever want, so you could spend the rest of your life investigating that. It will show you what you want to find. If you believe it was Cuba and whatever figures on the Che Guevara figure on the T-shirts, and these college kids, it's like my favorite topic. These college kids running around with the Che Guevara head, the outline, and have no idea who it is in history, if it's even real. So if you want to believe it's Cuba, then all the evidence will line up there. You could write books for the rest of your life. The reality accomplishes this somehow. It's more than what men and women running around could do. So, and the confusion is not just created on all sides, it's confusion on top of confusion. They had this thing 10 years later called the Commission on Assassinations that actually, after telling, maybe it was 15 or 20 years later, but after telling everybody it was Lee Harvey Oswald and that was it, and Jack Ruby that just shut the door on it, and we know what happened. They were very specific in their story. It was Lee Harvey Oswald. They didn't waver. The official story. But then the Commission on Assassinations also looked at RFK and Martin Luther King. There's no coincidence. JFK, MLK, RFK. No, I don't know what their weird goal is in doing that either. But it's all. We live in a gigantic reality script, guys. Goes back and was written by the creepy piano player and Under the Silver Lake a long time ago. Um, so the Commission on Two Asses in a Nation came out and said, we believe there was conspiracy. I even presented this a few years ago. This is some kind of Mandela effect. Who's ever heard of this? I don't believe it's a Mandela effect today, but it's like, who's ever heard of this? So after being consistent that it was a lone gunman and one guy, there was some commission in the late 70s. The Commission on Assassination said we believe there was some sort of conspiracy for JF. What? Well, who were the others? It's just there to bring back in the same police lineup. Now, part of this, all of these rules that they have to follow in these presentations, to me, all goes along with how the whole reality is designed to work or not designed to work. Confusion created on all sides. Have we ever experienced that before? Yeah, all the time. But here's the thing that gives the reality away. It's like stalled century. Nothing is ever resolved, but it can't be. It can't be. So today, what are the chances? Maybe in 1975, someone was saying, let's argue it was it Castro or the Russians or the mob or the Fed or the military industrial. But then that same argument carries forth today. So when all the research and all these, what the government supposedly promises leaked documents every 10 years, and we haven't eliminated a few characters. We haven't. So by 2020, we look. There could be some experts that say that believe in everything that was presented. That say, look, it wasn't the mob. It was likely Castro. And the evidence points here. But I assure you, if you believe it's the mob, the evidence would point there. It's unnatural. But generally, with the minds of the people, there's still the same cast of characters who may have done it. How's that possible? After 60 years or something. I mean, come on. It's not possible. It gives it away. But here's the point. The reality, in my opinion, has to operate like that. It needs to do stalled century. It must just go on and on and on. It's the song that never ends. It goes on and on and on. My little cousin sang this song for like an hour with friends. They say the same line, and then it's the song that never ends. It goes on and on and on, da, 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 and then they just keep going and going. That's the reality we live in. It's the reality show, clown show that never ends. It's just that it can't be resolved. So what I'm saying, guys, what Gus is saying is, if they might say we need to keep this JFK thing fresh in the people. It's getting a little stale. People in their 20s that are trying to merge with their cell phone, they don't even know who JFK is. So we need to make a big presentation, do another commission, and then we're going to come out and we're going to resolve it. And we're going to say, you know what? All evidence, just all faked or whatever they say, all evidence points to Castro or whatever they might say. And somebody might say, yeah, don't they need to do that to keep the whole JFK story fresh in the minds of the young people who might probably don't even know who he is? And do they need to do that? You would think they would need to do that. But in my opinion, I don't understand this. I don't know why I'm saying this. It's like the reality can never resolve anything. To me, they're not capable of saying it's then they might get some benefit short term, but then it would completely go away, which hurts them too. So the last thing I wrote here is why it can never be resolved. It almost seems to be like a necessary ingredient for their strange magic or how they derive power from it. Again, I have no idea the ins and outs of strange stuff like this. I only observe and say, well, it almost seems like it has to work that way because, there's no other explanation for it. Part of their strange magic. When I said that, who's that? It's got a strange magic. Da da da. I guess that's ELO. ELO. Yeah, I have the best of ELO somewhere. What they do? Black Magic Woman. No, I guess that Black Magic Woman is Santana. Sorry, guys. So I guess that's it. Um, I will. Maybe it'll be you know, uh, maybe it'll be the video on Free Voice on JFK will be just only about a half hour, but maybe overkill isn't good. I mean, maybe it's just good to present again the Jackie thing by itself with the outfit is almost you just I don't see how anybody can explain that away. And then she also appears kind of in the same outfit, or at least in the same top coat, the next morning at 5:30 in the morning when the procession goes into the East Room of the White House, of which they use the Lincoln catafalque, whatever that they call it, a catafalque breakout, which that ties then to you create the Lincoln to Kennedy synchronicities, which is just impossible to pull off, and that's another complete reality breakdown. But Jackie, she's wearing a coat, but it's the same matching outfit as, so she refused to take the bloody skirt off. She just wore it for hours and hours and hours the day before. The top coat should have been covered like Carrie. That had two tiny little spots you could see as she's standing next to um, Lyndon Baines Johnson and his succubus are standing there getting sworn in, and Jackie's there. Like, you need the first lady's blessing to get a new president sworn in. The whole thing is just, it's mistakes on purpose again. If if me and Greg planned out how it would all go down, we could make it more believable. It's just so absurd. She's standing there, two little spots when Connolly said, she took him in. And even if Connolly's wrong, just the event itself. Did you see Pulp Fiction? Just the event itself of what happened with a high-powered 308, rifle or whatever it was she'd be sprayed, just boom, she'd be covered in that crap. Why am I on brain duty? Your ass in the back of this car. You're on brain duty. I'm like Guns of Navarone. She'd be covered. So it's just absolute. That by itself, you really don't need any more. Matt, you don't need any more evidence to prove it wasn't real. There's a lot more evidence, but you don't need any more. No, the Jackie top coat by itself is impossible. If what they say happened. It is that simple. You can come up with any excuse in the world, and there is other thing. The whole free voice video isn't just going to be this. There's going to be there's a lot of other things that point to the whole thing being just another stage show from the guiding light. But people desperate to hold on to first grade truth would be like, Matt, the wind could have been blowing in the other direction. Even if that was the case, I don't want to get into what it's going to present on the free voice video. I'm going to do it much more professionally on free voice. Probably I'm not going to show myself unless just to introduce who's doing the video. I'll be a voice in the background of much more of a calm presentation in case you want to show it to anybody. Of course, anybody on the verge of coming into truth, you can't show it to anybody. Normally, they would not. They'll never come around, no matter what. And this should have made the strange list that it's potential we give a video or a DVD to somebody like in a whole different belief set, and what they watch is not even what I presented. They're watching like a totally different reality, like something I didn't even put on the disc. I don't know. That is a strange theory that I'm never going to take off the table. It's like I've said, I've given one particular case through between the Texas Shrug channel and this channel. I did make a few movies that I could never show on YouTube. I still have them somewhere on disc. One was about the 7-Eleven job, and I really believed that by the end of it, there's no possible way anybody could come out the other side and believe the official story. It was, just riddled with impossible things. And Pam said, well, my friend, what was I don't know, his name was John or something. I don't know, some guy. I know him, but I forget his name right now. Michael, his name's Michael. Michael's going to watch it. He's the ultimate Atlantic Magazine liberal of all time. I mean, just believes in every bit of the the altruistic nature of the Democratic Party. I mean, so he watched it. He took it all. He came back and very honest, believe, he's not going to lie and say he didn't watch it. He said, I watched it. There's nothing on here that would in any way change my opinion on what happened. There's just no way. There's no way. The way I don't know. You guys know what I mean. There's just certain things that you would think if you showed anybody that you can show some. I mean, there's thousands of these things. There, you could show from like the Judy Wood presentation. You could show a beam. They show a beam falling, and it just disappears in midair. It dustifies. That by itself, you could see it. It just goes to nothing. And there's a lot of those types of videos. Well, how do you explain that anyway? I'm sorry. Go on and on. That should have made the list of crazy things. It's possible to make a presentation, to write a book or make a video, give it to somebody else. They take it into their separate reality bubble, and what they're reading or watching is not even what you produced. That should be on the list, and that's probably the craziest thing of all. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. It's been long, and I hope to post that to Free Voice tomorrow evening, Sunday evening, United States time. Thanks.